So this is episode 1 of season 2. What are we talking about today?
This was a really busy news summer. A lot happened. MSNBC is now MSNow or MSNow or whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot going on in the NBCUniversal cable town world from the Nepo king, Brian Roberts. And I'm going to be talking about that. You've got big news about what's happening in Europe on a couple of different fronts, right?
Yeah, so June was very busy, and there's a reason. You've said it. We're socialists, so I think a lot of the news were released in June. So we had Netflix and TF1, Amazon and France Télévisions, RTL and Sky, and then the rest of the summer was pretty quiet until today because this is back to school. And so we heard this morning some news about the German market. So we're going to be talking about consolidation around ProSiebenSat.1, which is one of the big commercial broadcasters there.
And then we both have a story about YouTube. I'm talking about YouTube's rising dominance. So they were already dominant before the summer here on television, but now that they're distancing themselves from the field. And then you have a YouTube story from that side of the Atlantic too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Barb from the UK, they're going to be the first JIC to actually measure some of the YouTube channels. I'm saying some because they made the decision to go after 200 channels that they've chosen in partnership with CViews and Kantar. And we'll be talking about, the first numbers we saw and a bit of the reactions from the markets.
Yeah, really fascinating stuff. And then there's an empty head at the top of Channel 4. And I think you and I both have some ideas on who they should hire. And so we're going to put those recommendations for candidates out there, whether those candidates want it or not. It'll be interesting to see what happens on the other side of that. But first, let's talk about the season ahead.
Welcome, everyone, to the second season. Stop. He's making faces. Okay.
I'm excited to be back. Last time we went on a break, you dated another co-host. So I'm excited to see you.
Yeah, and I'm tan and I look good. And
you look great.
So do you, actually. Let me start again. But the face you made was like, oh my God, I'm not going to stay focused on it. Okay.
My face does that to people.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to the second season of the Media Odyssey podcast. This is Evan Shapiro.
And that is Marion Renchette, back from our break.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Summer break this time. Nothing going wrong within this pot couple, right?
Not that I can tell, but last time we went on a break, you dated another co-host. So I don't know.
Did you date it? 3 women. You did 2, actually. So stop blaming me for being with Alan once.
Do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah, be forgiving, right? So how was your summer, man?
It was pretty good. I actually have COVID right now.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, no, it's very hot right now. I don't know if you heard, COVID is way back in vogue. So I have COVID. I feel fine. But other than that, it's been really, really great.
Wow.
How about you?
Yeah, my summer was amazing. So no COVID, no LinkedIn, books, food, family, amazing. And I'm gearing up to prepare for Streaming Made Easy Live taking place on September 11th. I have to say the pressure is mounting.
Yeah, and I'm presenting, that's at IBC. It's just the day before IBC in Amsterdam. And then I'm presenting a couple of times there too. And I'm feeling the pressure, not just to be good on stage and all that kind of stuff, but to really advance the conversation. Yeah. It just feels like the ball needs to be rolled even harder uphill right now because the whole ecosystem feels like it's falling apart even faster than it was when last we saw each other.
Yeah, and I have to say 2 years ago, you made quite an impression with your keynotes, telling people that they were white dude and white dinosaurs. So I think the pressure is yay high for you, right?
I thanks a lot.
Yeah, I love piling up.
Yeah, we're really trying to really ramp it up, and there's going to be a whole new thesis there. I've introduced a bunch of ideas this summer, like the affinity economy and new measurement, and that's really where I'm going to focus the rest of this year is on how do we measure progress now?
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, so Streaming Made Easy Live on September 11th. Then I'm speaking. I have a couple of panels on the 12th. You're doing your keynote on the 13th.
Yep.
On the 13th, we also have two cool things. We have two live episodes of the media Odyssey. So one with our friends from Whale TV, which these guys are, CTV's best kept secret. Well, for the next few weeks, because no more. Everyone will know about Whale TV coming up. And we have a cool CTO, so Chief Technology Officer podcast, right? Because we know nothing about tech. We need people to educate us, right?
Yeah, we've got two great big brains coming from that for that podcast as well. We also have a great season ahead, like a chock-a-block full of huge names coming on, including Angel Studios, probably the hottest independent film studio in the entire world, Whaler Media, who is just crushing it in the creator economy. We've got the head of marketing for the Philadelphia Football Eagles, your Super Bowl champions.
Oh, wow.
We've got folks from Little Dot coming on. We've got some of my favorite people in all of content, World of Wonder, the people who produce RuPaul's Drag Race. So we've got a really exciting season coming up. I hope you all come back for the entire season, because if you loved last season, you're going to really go crazy for this one. If you didn't listen to last season, what the fuck are you doing? Go listen to last season. It's still pure gold, and it'll tee you up for what's happening this year. All right, let's dive in.
Okay, so tell me more about MSNBC taking a name from the 80s.
So I think everybody knows this by now. Comcast, NBCUniversal, or as I like to call them, Cabletown, which is what they were called in the documentary called 30 Rock by Tina Fey. They are in the midst of spinning out their slowly dying, or actually quickly dying, cable networks, including MSNBC, CNBC, a whole bunch of other cable properties, USA, and others as well. And they're spinning it out into a new publicly traded company called Versant, which is dumb in and of itself. Because they're taking dying businesses, but which have positive cash flow and are throwing off profits, and they're separating it from the part of NBCUniversal that actually isn't necessarily making money yet. Although they're keeping Bravo, that cable network, over here and not putting it. It's just ill-founded. And I wrote a piece earlier this week about my experience at Cabletown, where I went to the company when I got hired there and convinced them to take The Office off of Netflix to start a new streaming service and put it exclusively on this new streaming service. This was in 2015, 2016. And at that time, The Office was the #1 streaming show in the world. And they didn't think they had the right to do it. I showed them the contract, made them read it, and demonstrated that they did have the right to do that. So we went to Netflix, who said, you don't have the right to do that. We showed them the contract. We did have the right to do that. Then Netflix offered Cabletown and Nepo baby Brian Roberts $100 million on top of what they were already paying for The Office. And so these people who had hired me to build a brand new streaming service came to me and said, that strategy you had for the streaming service, throw it out the window. We're taking the money. We're letting them keep The Office. And then 4 years later, almost to the day, they paid Netflix $500 million to get The Office off of Netflix. And look at where Peacock is today. And imagine if they had had a 4-year head start with the #1 streaming service out there. Then look at these things they call strategies with spinning out Versant and the cable networks. And look at the fact that their broadband business has been flattening for years, and they've done nothing about it until this summer. And if you're asking yourself, what's the strategy at NBCUniversal, Comcast, Cabletown? There isn't one. And all the moves that they're making demonstrated by the fact that they just announced the Versant half, although they're not separated yet, that they're rebranding MSNBC. Do you know what MSNBC is?
It's a news channel, but that's it.
Yeah. It's a left-leaning version of Fox. And Rachel Maddow is on it, and it's done pretty well. It's actually one of the top-rated, if you want to say this is a thing anymore, cable television channels out there. Live and news still works on television. And so they're the left-leaning version of Fox. But MSNBC was named after a partnership when the channel launched between Microsoft and NBC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so,
did not know that.
Yeah. Very very few people realize that, but
For Fitbit
Microsoft
Wireless.
divested themselves from the partnership many, many years ago. They've kept it because it was on the dial, and I get that. But now they're doing away with the NBC brand,
For
but they're
MS
keeping the
now?
MS.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
It makes no, and they've
Yeah.
justified it with some kind of weird, like, I don't remember how they justified this new branding, but there's a couple of things to know about this. First of all, they're calling it MSNow, which when you read it, it looks like either a charity for multiple sclerosis, which, is a terrible disease and we should all give money to it. But
Yeah.
this is not what that is, or MSNow or MSNow. But it looks like any one of those things. What it doesn't look like is a television channel, but Microsoft has nothing to do with the channel. So if you're getting rid of NBC, why keep the MS part of it? That's first thing. Second thing, they can't get the URL. MSNow.com is unavailable. They do not own it. This is management malpractice, and it just shows that there is no strategy happening at that company right now.
Wow, that's a lot, and that must have been fantastic food for thought for you this summer. I'm sure you crushed it on LinkedIn.
It was a lot of, it got a lot of engagement on the LinkedIn, and there's a great, if you want to go there, you can look at it. But yeah, I tried to get that out as quickly as I could. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. It just shows that, frankly, our industry is infected with Nepo babies and chief officers of failing up.
No.
Jeff Shell is another really good. He's a graduate of that, I don't know, goat rodeo at NBCUniversal, and now he's the president at Paramount. And he came out with a kill list this week. He literally used those words.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that there's just this, coterie of upward failing white men, and I am one of them, I guess, but I'm not running a business, who are costing people jobs.
Yeah.
Paramount's going to lay off 3,000 people. NBC is handing out pink slips right now. And it's because of bad decisions by people at the top of these organizations, many of whom were born with silver spoons in their mouths, others who are just part of the secret handshake society of failing upwards, who don't think about the future. They only think about their own pockets and the next earnings call.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath, right, in Q4. And I have to say, I've spoken to a lot of, Paramount folks, and a lot of people are going through tough times already, right? These 12 months, not knowing what was going to happen, trying to be, working as usual has been rough. And I think they need to brace themselves, right, and start figuring out right now what's going to happen next. And part of that is going to be LinkedIn. Part of that is going to be engaging in new ways and kind of, taking back that control, right? Because they've been very quiet. Like, I've tried to actually have a couple of Paramount folks for the pods in September. Nope, not happening, right?
Yeah, and we've talked about this, but not that much on the pod really, is, people who are in our age groups. I'm much older than you. I'm
Yeah.
a bar mitzvah older than you. But the between our age groups, they don't feel comfortable self-promoting very often.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wrote a long article on Substack and dropped it out and copied you on it today on LinkedIn on basically how to survive the Nepo apocalypse and really take control of your career back. And I think, your case study is a great one. Mine is a little weirder, but I think there are other people like Alan Woke and Hernan Lopez and others out there in the world who have demonstrated that you can pivot numerous times in your career if you're prepared to do that and you're comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. It does take a bit of, it's not something you can do overnight, right? So I would engage people to do it right away. And the first thing that I've noticed and that I've done myself, what helps is if you want to keep a low profile at the beginning, at the minimum, try to look at what others are doing, try learning. I did that for a full year also because I was on sick leave and I was not allowed to express myself, right, in any shape or form. But so I took that year and I was a lurker. That's the name you give on LinkedIn. Someone who's, looking, reading, but not, pressing like, no comments, no nothing. And I learned a lot. And then one day I was like, okay, I'm ready, and this is what I'm going to do.
Well, and you reached out and we actually met up and that's how our whole relationship started.
So, there's hope. But the good thing is that a lot of those people can see us, on different occasion in the next few weeks and months. And we were super happy to chat about that around a drink, right?
Totally. All right. So what's
Oh,
your big first topic of summer news?
so it's not Nepo baby, although MFE, which is Media for Europe, is
Yep.
the Berlusconi family. So it's a family-run business. It owns
It is
broadcast.
Nepo baby.
Yeah,
Isn't his son running it now?
yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
um, I don't know him, and I don't know enough to put him right away in the Nepo baby, because some people are actually they inherit a business and they're good at that, right? So there's nothing wrong against
Totally.
family businesses and people taking over. So I don't want to judge this guy. I don't know him. I hated his dad for sure. But this guy, the jury's still out. And so essentially, he's been pushing for the last few years to actually become a pan-European media company. And it's the one thing to do. We need more consolidation in the region. It's happening right now. We had Sky and RTL in Germany. And so for the last few months, MFE has been pushing to grow its share of ProSiebenSat.1, which is the other. So in front of RTL is the other commercial broadcaster. And what's been fascinating is that the last few months, we've seen a bit of a saga between MFE and the PPF group from Czechoslovakia. And so these two were shareholders and they were bidding. There was a bit of a bidding war and it ended today. Essentially, PPF, called it quit and MFE won. So they actually now have their 43% market share. So they've moved from 30 to 43. And now PPF is even saying, I'm leaving ProSieben. I don't think I can be part of this anymore. So MFE is gaining another 15% on top of that. So that means that they don't have full control, but they have majority. And that means that they can actually, discuss the strategy moving forward, count the results from ProSieben in their own, accounts. And it
Earnings.
means that they have a broadcast business in Italy, Spain, and Germany. So fascinating to see what's going to happen next. We'll know more, I think.
Was this a good idea? I mean, the
I
thing
think
is
it
like
is.
I understand the theory
Yeah.
behind it, but is buying broadcast and not
Well,
public broadcast. So these are commercial broadcasters.
yeah.
Is buying broadcast a good idea right now?
Well, I have to say that, we have struggling broadcast businesses, but not to the extent that you guys have, right? So it's still very much good business, but businesses that need to reinvent themselves. And so the one thing that they need to do, and we've spoken about that, is of course embracing their streaming era. But there's also the question always that comes up is, how do you compete when in front of you guys you have global players, right? And so here, the idea is really to say, I can't really be just my Italian, broadcast operation or Spanish. Let me be something bigger. The one thing is we'll have to see the execution of it all, because from a mindset perspective, cultural perspective, Italian, Spanish, German, not that easy. But I think it's worth a shot, honestly. And I'm excited to see if these guys could actually take a look at ITV next in the UK. Could they
Yeah.
be looking at M6 next in France? And then you're
Yeah.
truly a EU5, broadcast player
But
that can
because of the
compete.
language barriers, does that again, is there
Yep,
economies of scale to be,
they're
I guess
saying 100.
technologically speaking,
Yeah, they're saying 115, 50 million, I think, of economy. So I think
per year?
there's an economy of scale, and we've had so good example, right? We had Bedrock on this, and they were talking about building a tech platform. So even just that, having one tech platform running, both Italian, Spanish, and German operations, right? If not more markets. So jury's still out exactly on will that be a good thing, yes or no. Those things take time. We've seen it with Paramount and Skydance. But, I think we need, as Europeans, we need more partnership and when not consolidation, for sure.
Yeah, and there's a similar thing happening here, and honestly about the same scale. You've got Tegna and Nexstar, so these are broadcast companies here, but they own local broadcasters. So it's kind of like how ARD runs in Germany. It's
Okay.
affiliates across the country. And so you're having a major consolidation. And I don't think the last time in local broadcast here, Alan Wilk actually wrote a really good article about this a couple weeks ago after it was just announced. And there used to be a time where you would be very afraid of the limiting
Yeah.
of voice due to that type of consolidation. But to your point from earlier, compared to Google and Amazon and Netflix and all the rest and Apple, it's the only thing that broadcast can do is consolidate. And
Yeah.
local content is going to become, I think, more important over the next not 5 years, not
Yeah,
less.
absolutely. And so on the political front, you're right. I think German authorities are a bit worried because in Italy, you have a right wing, right wing prime minister, Meloni, right? And so there's a question on, will this new shareholder, will maintain pluralism, etc. It's yet to be seen, but their MFE, when they're pitching this, really focused on the pan-European aspect of it all. So I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, and we'll see. We
Yeah,
can come back to it.
the only thing I would warn about this, and I think Germany should be worried about this because Berlusconi's dad was the original Trump.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah,
He owned media,
yeah,
and then he became the head of the country,
yeah.
and was very much double dealing and limited voice. So there's not a great history in that family
That's
of
true.
being
That's true.
okay with free speech,
That's true.
but we'll see how
Yeah,
that
that's very
works
true.
out. My next story is about YouTube,
Okay.
but it's actually about
Of course it is. Joking.
yeah, I know. YouTube.
Yeah, da,
But
da.
it's about actually YouTube's place on the television dial here in the United States. So the July gauge, Nielsen gauge just dropped, and YouTube now has almost 13.5% of all television viewing
Getting close
just
to my
on
bet, huh?
TV.
I said
Yeah,
15 now.
that's right. You said 15. That's right.
4 more months. Let's
Or
see.
months. I think they're going to hit it. I think you're right. So they're at 13.5%. And so there's a couple of different things to look at that. First of all, they're distancing themselves from the field. Second
Yeah,
place is now further away than they've ever been. Disney is now under 10% of total market share. And remember, that's YouTube versus all of Disney. The other thing to remember about this YouTube number is it does not include YouTube TV, their cable product. It does not include shorts, and it does not include anything but the television set.
yeah,
So 13% of all TV viewing before YouTube
yeah,
TV here in the US. And still we have people here talking about how, well, it's just a waste of time, Ted Sarandos, or it's not TV, you. But if it's on the TV and it's taking up that much mind space,
yeah,
it is television. The other thing to note about this is that's YouTube, which means that's really 4.5 million channels within YouTube
yeah,
sharing that voice. And a million channels take up most of that time. About 98% of all YouTube viewing comes from just a million channels. But think about a million channels of fragmentation. And then the Disney number is Disney and Hulu and Disney Plus and ESPN, and NBC is NBC and all their cable channels, including MSNow and the rest. And it's getting more and more fragmented.
yeah,
The other big point I would make about this is YouTube and Netflix alone. So Netflix had a very good summer. They're suddenly bouncing back a little bit after months and months and months of plateauing. But those two combined, if you take YouTube and Netflix combined, they are now much larger than all of broadcast
yeah,
in the United States combined. Together, they're about 22.5%, Netflix and YouTube. All of broadcast in the US is about 18%. By the way, when you take YouTube and Netflix combined, they're at about 22.5%. They're on the same par. They're equal to all of pay TV combined. And the idea that the traditional ecosystem is going to be able to survive based on what they're doing today is just ill-founded. By
yeah,
this time next year, I think YouTube will be bigger. You've made a prediction, which is they'll be at 15%
yeah,
by the end of this year. I think you're right, and I think you're only wrong because maybe too low. I think
By
by
the end
this
of the
point,
year, do you think it can be more than 15
they
by
have
your
the
end?
NFL. They have the first NFL
Yeah,
game
true.
of the season.
Yeah.
They have NFL Sunday Ticket, which doesn't actually play into that number. But yeah, I think
And why
they're
not?
only a point and a half away from 15
Yeah,
percent.
I'm regretting not putting some money
A
or
higher number.
asking something from you or anyone else on this because on a
We didn't bet anything.
yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't. I'm not good. I wasn't in Vegas in Jan. I should have bet something there. But so just one thing, why is YouTube TV not included in here? What's
The reason
is
why
it
YouTube TV
cable?
that is a great question. The reason why YouTube TV is not included in there is because Nielsen counts the viewing on YouTube. So when you think about YouTube TV, it's cable and pay TV, right? And so that's lots of channels that aren't YouTube. There's no YouTube in YouTube TV. It's NBC and ESPN and CBS and, Comedy Central. And so viewing from YouTube TV is actually reallocated into the other companies. So YouTube TV viewing of NBC is in the NBC count, and YouTube
Ah,
TV viewing of ESPN is in the Disney count. So you
okay.
can't double count it. The one thing I will say, my prediction is by the end of 26, YouTube in the United States on TV by itself will be bigger than all of broadcast
Mm.
combined.
I have to say I find that scary. I love YouTube, but I also have I love a bit of competition. I love broadcasters. I still watch TV. I
No,
do
but
less broad and yeah,
I think we look at it different I think we look at it incorrectly when we look at it as a
yeah,
scary thing.
yeah,
In that it's not YouTube, it's not their content.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you're about to get into the share of voice on YouTube, and by Barb's measurement, it's YouTube is making money on it, but so is everybody else. And so I look at it like Comcast. It's the new Comcast, it's the new Charter. It's not YouTube content, it's everybody else's content on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. The only challenge, and we've spoken about this when we were in Cannes, right? And we spoke to Pedro Pina about that, VP YouTube EMEA. The fact that, and this is what everyone is saying, the amount of money you make on there for an hour of YouTube and an hour on TV. I mean, it's tenfold, if not more, right? So my challenge is, and that's where I think it's scary, is I'm worried that that the ecosystem could crumble, right? Because it's again, dollars versus cents, kind of like
Yeah,
in streaming.
I will push back on that. There's two elements. One, YouTube, the more dominant they become on television, the higher their CPMs are going. That's one. And then two, that's entirely in your own hands. And so if you lean into it the way that BBC Studios
Mhm.
has or the way that other players have, you can sell it and you can make as much money as you'd like, but you have to really lean into it. The issue is none of the big publishers have really embraced this new distribution platform the way that they should or need to. And until and unless they do, in 2019, Disney went into streaming. Finally, they were drug into it,
Yeah,
right? And they changed the nature of the streaming ecosystem overnight. I think we're months away from Disney leaning into YouTube the
yeah,
way that they leaned into streaming, and I think when they do that, everybody else, as they do, herd in
yeah,
behind Bob Iger, and I think we'll see a real transformation of social video as a platform.
yeah. So speaking of, because there's a lot of data on YouTube as a whole, right? And so if you look at the UK, you've put a lot of data with Barb on that. In Q2, YouTube on TV, 43%, and even higher, like another 10 plus when you look at younger demos, particularly younger kids.
Or multiple screens in the home,
Yeah.
then it goes even higher.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. But so the question was always, it's seen as a whole, and what people want to know, right, is what is actually happening on YouTube, which channel are driving traffic, et cetera, et cetera. Well, viewership. That's where I say YouTube is not TV. Is even the lingo doesn't really work. It's not apples to apples. But anyway, so Barb. The UK JIC decided in March to actually start a project where they will be measuring 200 YouTube channels. How did they choose those channels? They work with a company called CViews. Not super clear how they made a decision. One thing they chose is brain safety, right? Because this is the one thing that is being said about YouTube, is that you can get to watch and see nonsense on there. So brand safety, and of course the volume of use. And I haven't had my hands on the whole report, right, on the 200. They only shared a subset, which is the top 20, and you're seeing someone at the top. And can you guess who that is? Did you look it up?
Pretty sure it's Mr. Beast. I did look at it.
No, it's not. Mr. Beast is number 5.
Oh, wow.
So the first one is Peppa Pig.
Oh, right. Yes, I did know that. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is.
Right?
By the way, demonstrating that YouTube is television, because Peppa Pig is a TV show.
Yeah.
Let's all be honest.
What they did there is all of that data is, so it's TV only. It doesn't include the channels that are operated by broadcasters, because any of that viewership is actually folded into the broadcaster's share, etc. So Mr. Beast, so Peppa Pig, the reach, weekly reach, we're talking about around 700K folks. So that's 1.2 in market share, right? So kind of tiny.
It's not bad. That is not bad.
Not bad.
I mean, 700,000 people. I think Channel 4 would love to have that audience on a regular basis.
Yeah. And then share of total, identified TV, we're talking at 0.06%, right? Okay, there's a lot of caveat. And so Mr. Beast number 5, we're talking half that in terms of the number of viewers. So what's interesting is that
that's just on TV, right?
Yeah. That's just on TV. But as we've seen, a lot of the viewership from YouTube is much more now on TV than it is historically on PC, mobile, etc.
Yeah, almost half in the UK, over 60% in the US.
Exactly. So what I find interesting is, because all of the numbers that we get were always from YouTube, it's, global reach, right? And at a market level, it's the entire platform. But as you've said it at the top, there's a lot of content on there. There's a lot of channel, right? So to me, that screams that there's a lot of long tail viewership, very, very fragmented. So it's not like you can really compare the performance of any of these guys with what's happening on TV. In my view, right? And especially when you look at advertisers, is that going to convince them to invest on YouTube?
I think so. That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
Now let me give you the opposite, which is, let's do individual shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's not going to amount to that much on a regular basis. There are adolescents, and there are exceptions to that. Yeah. But when you look at the vast majority of content on Netflix, it's a long tail, right? And so the concept, when people buy YouTube in particular, they buy a demographic, they buy an audience. They don't traditionally buy a show. And in this case, they can't even buy Peppa Pig, because it's very hard to advertise in kids' programs.
That's the big challenge, huh? On that top 20, most of it is kids, right, which is hard to monetize altogether. So, yeah.
But that speaks to how to use YouTube as a programming outlet.
Yeah.
If you're looking at YouTube as the center, as exclusively as an advertising business, and as the center of your business, then you're missing the point.
Yeah.
It's an extension of your business. And if it's a spoke off your hub, and in the case of Peppa Pig, selling billions of dollars a year in merchandise, or hundreds of millions of dollars a year in merchandise, then you look at YouTube as a marketing channel, as a way to reach audiences and build IP. Bluey is another good example, and we talked about this.
And it's up there, of course.
Yeah, and that's a monster hit on Disney and a monster hit on YouTube as well. So it is complicated. I think we have to be really frank with people. This is a very difficult business moving forward.
Yeah.
Entertainment, television, media, it's going to be super complicated and really hard, and not for the faint of heart. And if you're not okay with that, find another business.
Yeah.
This is not going to be easy.
Oh, that's true. No, on that I will agree. But clearly that shows that you need to be on there. And again, it's part of your flywheel, but you need to be mindful of the rest of your businesses, verticals, etc. Because again, very, very fragmented. And I will say this argument with Netflix, yeah, maybe you're not selling against a specific show, but the entirety of what's in there, that it is broadcast level, television on Netflix, whereas that's not the case on YouTube. Out of those 5
Not
million
always, but
channels,
Peppa Pig is a good example, and Bluey's another good
Pippa
example.
is, but if you go beyond those 200 channels, and if we're saying that a lot of the consumption is on the rest of that long tail, then that long tail is not premium content necessarily. It's not
To
premium
you,
TV.
to you. To others, Mr. Beast or Alan Universe or, Darman
Yeah, but
or
those
Alex
are
Cooper
resentment
or
TV.
Joe Rogan,
Yeah,
or I can keep going on. These are premium to the consumer, depending on how they look at it. My fear about the data that Barb put out is that it's being misused to basically reinforce the broadcast first mindset expressed over and over again with kind of misleading reads of the data by Lindsay Clay, the CEO of
yeah,
ThinkBox, who's paid to basically be biased towards
yeah,
broadcast. That's literally her job. And she's using the Ofcom report and other data out there in incorrect ways to basically convince people that everything's swell in television. And it's just not. It's just not swell. I've talked to all of the people who work in television in the UK, and they know it's not
yeah.
swell. And so to say to people like, ignore YouTube, it's not really as big as you think. It just is. And it has to be part of your consideration set. I'm not saying it's the only thing,
Yeah,
but if
absolutely.
you're
It
not
should not
factoring it
be.
in,
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
really, really going to get crushed.
Yeah, in any case, I think there's a lot of they're missing a lot of things in there because shorts are not
Not in there.
taken into account. And yeah, and actually they've only started, right? So they've looked at videos uploaded since April. And as we all know, we see it as well on our pod, right? A lot of that consumption is going to go to the rest of your library, right? And so something that's maybe a year old on your channel is going to generate. So those numbers, it's from April and only new uploads, right? So
Right,
folks need to
right,
keep that in
right.
mind. So that means that those numbers are actually much lower than what they should be if you were looking at the
Right, so
entire
imagine yeah,
library of Peppa and Mr. Beast and anyone else. What
they're
was
at
that?
1+% just with
Yeah,
new uploads.
yeah,
Imagine if you took the whole library,
yeah,
and we know kids are stupid and watch the same thing over and over again. So, like, let's not, please stop misusing data for your own purposes.
yeah.
Use data, but tell the truth about it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go back to you because you have another really good one here from your work history about Roku, yeah?
Yeah, I'll go fast on this one, but I think it speaks nicely to what we say day in, day out. That is that you need to have a multifaceted strategy. And I think it's fascinating to see a company like Roku, which initially was, only a device, dongle, $20 maker, turning into a platform that, hosts third-party services, but now have their own. And so they had the Roku channel for the last 6 years already, but they were mostly focused on AVOD, fast, etc. And it's fascinating to see them, launching earlier this month an SVOD, a mini SVOD, $3. Anthony Wood, the CEO, said, it's the price of a cup of coffee. I don't know where. A coffee in the US is actually much more expensive than that.
Oh, so
So
it's cheaper than a cup of
yeah,
coffee.
yeah. So it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. But it's interesting to see these guys. So moving from hardware to then software, becoming this, advertising behemoth. Then, producing their own shows, having their own Roku channel, and now having an SVOD. So it's like, it's $3. There's like 10K titles. It's a lot of library content, movies and all. What's interesting is it seems that a lot of the titles from that offer are also available somewhere else on the Roku platform, whether through them and others, on a free ad-supported basis. And so I'm wondering whether it's not a way for Roku to be like, perhaps advertising is getting a bit tougher. And I've heard rumbles of people saying that they're struggling to sell, and they actually, allow companies to buy back some of the inventory to sell themselves. and that they're trying to mitigate, this by going into SVOD, right? So SVOD going into ad supported guys going into SVODs. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had the same question. I think you're right. I think it's a diversification of revenue play, and it's a smart one. I think it's really wise to not put all of your revenue eggs in one revenue
Yeah.
basket. But I'm going to use this moment to speak directly to one person, which is Charlie Collier. Charlie and I have known each other over 20 years. Charlie, come on the pod.
Yeah,
Tell us
we
what
need
the
to talk
strategy
about
is.
that. I agree.
You challenged
Yeah.
Matthew Hennick and their Ventura product, and then Matthew came on and explained it and won
Yeah.
you over. So, Charlie, we have questions about your business model. Come on the pod. We've known each other long enough. I won't be that mean to you. Um,
You were actually
so,
quite nice to him. I saw you on stage with him last year at
so
Streaming
fucking
Media
charming.
NYC.
It's just
I think it's
hard.
okay. I'd love to have him on board. He was on the town a few months ago, and I had a lot of
Yeah.
other questions for him. So yeah, let's do that.
Cool. All right. So, last one, and this is one for each of us. Alex Mahon from Channel 4 has moved on to a new job in live entertainment, and they are looking for a CEO. It's also, I mean, Alex did a really good job. She can be a little controversial at times, but generally she really solidified where they are. But they really have leaps and bounds to make before they get where they're going. So the question is, who will be the next CEO of Channel 4? I have two picks. Hopefully you have two.
I do.
Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Okay, I have one that is controversial, and that's my
Okay.
goody side, where I always want things to. I'm not predicting, I'm wishing, but I want the interim CEO to get it. I'm kind of annoyed at
Who
seeing.
is that?
It's a guy called Jonathan Hallen, and I'm kind of annoyed to see people who are working hard, deserving, and then there's someone swooping in. So that's just me and my work ethic. So I'm kind of rooting for him, but I have another one that I'll share after yours.
Okay, so I think Jonathan's very smart and does a really good job. I don't know that the programming area. So the rules just
Yeah.
changed, and they're going to be able to produce their own content and own their own content. And I'm not sure that he necessarily comes from that background. I think he's a great candidate. Don't get me wrong, but I think you need an alien from outer space.
Okay.
And so my number one to really right the broadcasting ship and turn it into a digital product, which is exactly what's needed there. So my pick would be mutual friend of ours and friend of the pod, Pedro Pina.
Oh,
I think
wow.
he would be an amazing CEO of that company.
Yeah.
I think he has the vision. He also understands advertising as well as anybody on the continent of
Yeah.
Europe. He lives in
Interesting.
London. He is a UK guy, but he also has a European point of view. I just think I think he would crush it. I know he would. He's now cringing while he's listening to this, but Pedro, you should consider it.
So funny enough, I had someone from YouTube on my list as well.
Who is it?
Alison Lomax. She's the MD
Yes.
of YouTube UK.
Yeah. Again, if you want somebody who actually is purely a UK native, then
Yeah.
that would be a great choice. So I agree with that as well.
So what's funny is that everyone who's hating the whole YouTube discussion must be thinking that it could be a
You're
YouTube
taking our
person
team.
at the top of Channel 4. Ugh.
But that's what. See, I don't want to downplay Jonathan. I think you're right. Giving the guy who's got a chance is a good idea. But I also think you do need an alien from outer space, which is where I would take
Yeah.
my second
Okay.
recommendation. And again, friend of the pod, someone we both know. I think Jasmine Dawson would be an
Ooh.
amazing choice. Comes from BBC Studios. When you listen to that episode of our podcast and you look at the way she reshaped the business model around the creator and fandom mindset and really updated what is one of the oldest, most traditional companies in the world, I think that's exactly what's needed. She's also next generation. She's a
Yeah.
millennial. She's not a Gen Xer. She's not a boomer. So I think, that point of view and she understands content and digital. I just think, that's the kind of fresh thinking that's necessary.
If their bosses are listening to this pod, you either got someone in trouble or they're going to get a massive raise just because
Well,
they're
I hope
worried
I
that
got them
you're
both
happy.
both some raise, and then
Yeah,
they can buy
and we'll
us
drink
drinks.
some champagne. I'll have
Okay, exactly.
some
Look,
champagne.
I have no say in
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
You have
no.
no say in this. We are not on the selection committee. But if you are listening, that's two good recommendations for me.
Yeah.
One from you. Who's your second?
So I had Alison Lomax, MD of YouTube UK, but I've been thinking about a few other folks, and I have Sarah Rose. So she's the one she was at Channel 4 and she launched 4OD, which awful name, but Channel 4 on demand, right? So I think she would be great as well. And of course, there's a lot of other folks within Channel 4 who could be, I'm sure, a good fit, right? You were talking about someone who has a content background. So, Jan Katz, is it Jay Hunt?
Yeah.
Well, he's at Apple now, but yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Interesting. I good luck to that selection committee.
Yeah,
It's a decent job, but what you can't do when you're at Channel 4 is give equity to the CEO.
yeah.
And so, the normal pay structure
Mhm.
around a job like that, where you would get not just a bonus and salary, but equity in the
Yeah.
company, you can't do that at Channel 4.
But
So it's all built on, and by the way, because it's a public
yeah.
broadcaster, everybody knows your salary.
That's true,
So it's
that's true.
really
Yeah,
complicated
that's
and
another
difficult.
reason why broadcasters are struggling to compete with the global guys, huh? It's not the same packages. Yeah,
And
that's
I
wild.
think that, I think the public broadcasters have to think about that.
Yeah,
Well, I am so glad to
that
see
we're back.
you, and we're
Yeah,
going to be
really cool.
back. We're going to see each other in just a couple weeks.
Yeah, we need to book
And
some time because we only work and we never
I
have
know
time to do anything. We need to have a lunch or at least a drink if we manage.
Sunday I am yours Sunday.
Okay,
So
I have a lot going on Sunday. We'll see. We'll
okay.
chat.
Well, you're too busy for me. Okay, I know. I see how it is. Look,
It's
I don't
my
know about
town. It's my town,
yeah, it
right?
is your town.
So
Everybody's coming to you for the secret. The hottest club in Amsterdam is Baby Bok Choy. I don't know about your experience, but when I go out in the world and I talk to people, they're like, I love the pod.
yeah,
I'm really digging it. Thank you so much. So to everybody listening who has said that to me or to Marianne, thank you.
yeah. Thank you, guys.
Tell your fucking friends. Like and subscribe, share this stuff. This podcast is entirely creator and fandom driven, and we love our fans, but we want more. So help us
Yeah,
spread the word
absolutely.
if you can. We'll put information all around this pod wherever you see it on how to do that. But we've got an amazing season coming up, which we just previewed, including some of the most important thinkers in changing the ecosystem from within. So it was great to see you. Thank
Great
you
to
so
see you
much
too.
for making the time to be with me on our podcast.
My favorite thing to do on Thursdays. I'm loving it.
Cool. Well, that is Marianne Ranchette.
And that is Evan Shabara.
This is the Media Odyssey podcast. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.